Okay. Welcome to the third video on the fourth meditation. In the last video, I introduced these scholastic notions of negation and privation. And we saw that merely as a finite thing, there will be some negation in me because I'm not infinite. And so there's some weakness in me, some lack of power. And that's just part of the kind of thing that I am as a finite thing. But the real mystery is how there could be privation in me, some evil, some error, given that God created me and God is good. So how is Descartes going to explain this? Well, we should turn now to another set of distinctions. So when reflecting on myself as a thinking thing, as a reasoning being that makes judgments, I find two basic abilities or faculties. The intellect and the will. So the intellect is going to be the faculty of ideas, or the faculty for finding ideas within myself. It's going to be the faculty for representing things, right? For finding ideas. Whereas the will is going to be the faculty for pursuit or avoidance, affirmation or denial, judgment or withholding judgment. And in general, there's going to be two kinds of cases: clear and distinct, and obscure and confused. In each of these cases, I might make judgments using my will about the ideas in my intellect, but they're going to be different, very different kinds of cases. So I understand I am, I exist, right? This is what we saw in the second meditation. And when I understand my idea of my existence, I have to immediately affirm it, right? As soon as I understand the idea, as soon as I see it clearly and distinctly, I'm compelled to affirm that I exist. This doesn't hold for, I used to live in St. Louis, the Arch. You all know about the big St. Louis Arch, right? Anyway, the gateway to the West. We could also imagine the Capitol building, right? So, oh, I don't know, that's a terrible Capitol building drawing. But anyway, we have a Capitol building. And this doesn't hold for the Capitol building, right? So when I see the Capitol building, I don't immediately have to affirm it as representing something existing. When I form my idea of the Capitol building from seeing the Capitol building, I don't immediately have to affirm that my idea represents some existing thing, the Capitol building. So whereas in the case of I am, I exist, I'm compelled to judge it to be the case that my idea of myself represents something real in the world. In the case of the Capitol building or the St. Louis Arch, when I see it, when I form the idea, I don't immediately have to affirm that it exists. Okay, and so that's the distinction between the two kinds of cases, right? So this one is going to be C and D. And this one is going to be obscure and confused. Right? So the first one is clear and distinct. The second one is obscure and confused. And in this process, right, in these two kinds of cases, these two ways of exercising the intellect and the will, in judging, there are two steps. There are two steps to both of these, right? So two steps to any judgment. So both of these are going to be judgments, two kinds of judgments, we could say. And judgments form beliefs, right? So it's through a judgment that I form a belief. And so forming a belief or making a judgment is a two-step process. The first step is having the idea, the seeing the Capitol building, right, and forming the idea of the Capitol building or the arch. And that happens in the understanding, right? So as soon as I have the idea, it's present there in the understanding. And that's the first step. So the first step is entertaining the idea, right? Having the idea in mind. And the second step is judging it to be representing the world truly, right? So judging it to be true or denying it, which happens through the will. And so it's the will that's going to end up affirming or denying, right? So I can claim it's true, that the idea represents things truly, and then I'm affirming it. Or if I claim that the idea does not represent things truly, if I don't think there is actually the Capitol building because maybe some evil, deceiving God has perhaps created me so that I can't trust my senses, I can't trust that the Capitol building that seems to be there is actually there, well, then that denial is going to happen through the will, right? That happens through an act of the will. And so the will is going to be what's responsible for the judgment or for suspending judgment. And forming a belief through a judgment involves the cooperation of these faculties. Literally. Why literally? Well, they both have to be operating, right? The understanding both has to be operating in giving me an idea, and the will has to be operating in my judging it to be judging the idea to be true to what it represents or false of what it represents. And so anytime I form a belief, anytime I make a judgment, my faculties of will and understanding are literally cooperating. They're operating together. They're cooperating in making the judgment. So in any judgment, we're going to see both the understanding and the will in operation. In the next video, we'll turn to how things might go awry and error becomes possible.